Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch Movie. I am Mike, and this is a review of Godzilla Minus One, the latest Godzilla movie. And you know what's crazy? This is out, for all intents and purposes, it's wide. You know, it's wide enough. It's what you say. It's wide enough. What? In theaters. And so most of you guys probably have this playing in a theater near you right now. I didn't know anything about this. I heard it mentioned a couple times in our live streams and whatnot. By the way, we have a daytime live stream coming up this Thursday, so check that out. But I've heard it mentioned. I've heard you guys mention it. I've never been a huge Godzilla guy. I always enjoyed going to the theaters and checking them out one time on the big screen and shoving my fat face full of popcorn and enjoying them. But I've never really found one that I really loved and like enjoyed. And I feel the same way as most people do about most Godzilla films. It's like, yeah, it was cool for like the 10 minutes they were fighting, and the rest of it was just like I could not give a flying, shit about what's going on in this plot right now. And I felt like that's a movie most of them had. I thought personally, another movie that's in theaters right now that I want to see, Silent Night, being a dialogue-free film, something like that would be amazing for a kaiju movie, because nobody ever cares about the characters on the ground, man. Like, let's just watch. I don't care if the movie's 45 minutes long, honestly. Maybe an hour and 10 minutes, just so that we can respect ourselves in the morning. I feel like they should just really cut the time down in most of these movies and just show the monsters fighting. That's all we're really there to see. Enter Godzilla Minus One, which completely blew away all my expectations and completely changed my mind about that entire thing. This movie was awesome. And yeah, you see a lot of hyperbole being thrown around for like every movie that's out there these days. It's just the world we live in. So I'm not trying to say this is the greatest film of all time or the greatest picture. Don't take it that way. Take my excitement as, holy shit, this is my favorite Godzilla movie I've ever seen. Now, granted, none of them are in my top 20 favorite movies of all time, but this is my favorite I've ever seen. Specifically because you go and see this, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, it is subtitled. It doesn't take away from the film at all. Honest to God, like, if you're one of those people who just really can't stand subtitled films, sure. But like, if you're not more than moderately annoyed by them, it's going to be fine. This entire film is subtitled. It's just under 2 hours long, which, yeah, they could have cut like 15 minutes out of it for sure. I feel that way about like every movie I see. But the difference between this movie and all those other movies is there was just something more real and authentic about it. I've heard a lot of people say that, no, the characters in this, you'll really care about them for the first time. And yes, that was true. But I don't think that's all that was special about this. When Godzilla was on screen, and he does have that, and I did not see Godzilla Shin. Fuck, what's the name of that movie? You know what I'm talking about. If you know, you've already commented it. I've not seen that one yet. I need to go see it for sure. One thing I did notice about it is the design of Godzilla was refreshingly reminded me of the original Godzilla movie. It was stripped down, but not enough to where it didn't feel modern like it should be today. He kind of had that weird, like, big-tittied walk that he does with his arms a little bit, but I enjoyed that. I like how he looked more rocky and less smooth around the edges, and he looked sharper around the edges, and I enjoy the effects and like Godzilla vs. Kong and all that shit, but I gotta be honest with you, even when I think about those movies right now, or Kong or the latest Godzilla movies, even though I enjoyed them all for what they were, I can't remember a fucking thing about them, Jim. I sit here right now in front of you, a boy wearing no pants, just dangling out and wondering what the hell happened to those movies, because I can't remember. And that's just kind of how I feel about them, and the special effects included. Like, it was cool if you see it in the big holy shit theater. This is different. This one's stuck in my brain, and I'll remember it because the effects on this Godzilla were so well done. And yeah, you could tell at times it's CG, but shit, there was just something way more authentic and realistic about this. I don't know what it was. If the CGI was just better or like what they did, but it fucking worked for me on a level no Godzilla movie has before. Specifically, this Godzilla spends a lot of time in the water. And there's two different scenes in this where Godzilla on one point is on an island that's pretty much barren of any big buildings or any shit like that. And it's just an open island. And then there's another scene, or a lot of other scenes, where Godzilla's in the open ocean, and the beautiful fucking ocean too. I'm talking that bright blue shit. And the ocean doesn't look CGI'd and fake. It doesn't all look like it's been painted with this, just sheen of CG and fakeness. The settings around him when in water or on this island look so legit. And the openness is just something that changed the game for me, because I think we're so used to like throwing giant buildings and skyscrapers and all this shit and packing them in to our Godzilla movies. Like, oh, well, you gotta have Godzilla. You gotta have a bunch of tall buildings and shit for him to wreck. It looks so much more realistic either in the ocean or open air. And I know he's been in the ocean before, but when he's on this island moving around, it it's so much cleaner. There's not so much fakeness to look at. It's more believable, and a complete and total different mood. And the sun moved, and now my fucking lighting is completely and totally different too. That's okay. It wasn't good anyway. There is a scene where he does go back to land, and you can see the difference. You're like, oh wow, I can definitely see the difference now. And that's one of the things that's so special about this movie is it doesn't spend a lot of time on land in a big city. That scene was still great because of the way they filmed it, and it was an action scene involving a train that kind of reminded me of the original Kong with the tram, and also reminded me a little bit of the Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning train stunt that came out. This was unheralded in the same way. I don't understand if this movie was, at least here in the States, in the United States, if Godzilla -1 was English spoken, it would be the Avengers type film of the summer. I know it's not summer, but you know what I mean. It would be a tent pole. Everybody talked about it. They're selling the cups. They're doing all the shit here. And maybe it is that way other places. And I do know it's doing good here. But what I mean by that is this film, I felt like I was watching Independence Day in the movie theater back when it came out. Like, it felt like an epic. It felt like it hit all the points. It wasn't just like, hey, let's throw some special effects out there, pack some bullshit in the bottom of it, and just zoom through that plot and let's do some sequels. This movie felt like it wanted to be a tentpole fucking epic that actually said something, and it was that way. Reminds me in some ways of Train to Busan, where that movie was so damn emotional. I don't think this one pulls that off quite as well as Train to Busan did, but I will say this, that first half of the movie, I was thinking, legit, I shit you guys not, this is the best movie I've seen all year. The fucking scope of it, the beautiful way that they filmed it, it didn't feel Hollywood, you know? It felt like I'm watching a movie where someone made Godzilla for the first fucking time. It just felt that refreshing and new. It felt like a well-filmed like war movie. It felt like watching big screen spectacle for one of the first times. That's how good it looked. I read that one of the inspirations for the director was Jaws, and you can tell. They use the ocean and Godzilla so fucking good in this movie. That shit is amazing, and damn if it's not beautiful to look at. It all involves post-World War II Japan, and the lead character is supposed to be a kamikaze pilot, and he fakes that something's wrong with his ship, and he docks at this island. He's already dealing with the guilt over not killing himself in this airplane, and then he lands this island, and a bunch of people come up to him, and they're like, hey man, you know, we don't agree with it either, so we're not going to turn you in, basically. And then all of a sudden, Godzilla shows up for the first time. And when he goes back home, everything is just war-torn and torn up, and he feels this immense guilt for not only what happened on the island, which I'll let you guys discover for yourself, but what happened during the war, and that he didn't do his part, and his parents are gone, and everything's just shit. Everything's terrible. And then he stumbles across this woman and her child, and he takes them in reluctantly. And this little girl, mind you, is the cutest little girl in the history of cinema. It is fucking crazy how cute this kid is. I said crying? That's fucking crying, man. It's awful. The way that they tell this story of him trying to get to redemption and the loss that he incurs along the way and what these three go through as a family, it wrenches your heart, man. And they do a really good job of it. But I will say in the third act, as we prepare for what's going to be our big act, they really drive that emotion home and that point home way too much. The movie comes to like a crazy halt for too long, I feel like, right before the last act of this movie, where I went from, this is my favorite movie of the year, to, okay, I get the point, like, it's emotional and you hit those story points really good. You got me. You fucking Tony Stark death got me. Now you're just driving it home and home and home, and I get the point. Like, I understand the plot. I understand this character's arc. I feel like they spend a good 15 to 20 minutes, way too long, just hammering the same kind of points home. And then there's some Oppenheimer feeling type stuff, the way all this sets up and the way they all set up for the final situation. And some of that's cool and some of it's a little bit long-winded. But yeah, right before the last act of this movie, the movie really does take a little bit of a nosedive as far as you actually check your watch and go, oh my God, there's this much time left. And that's really the worst thing you can say about this movie, because the last act of the movie comes in, and man, remember when I mentioned Independence Day, it gives you that just holy shit package feel. Like you feel like you're in a theater and you want to clap and you want to cry and you want to have all those emotions. Motherfucking cinema. You feel like you got the complete holy shit package by the time this ends, and the effects at the end are just as great as they are at the beginning. I totally recommend this. You got to go see it. You have to see it, and you have to see it in theaters. Do it. Trust me. I think you'll be happy that you did, whether you're a Godzilla person or a monster movie person or not. If you just like fucking special effects that feel like old school, impressive special effects that weren't all made in a fucking bottle at Disney, go see this movie. But I feel like I'm channeling Arnold all of a sudden. Do it now! Go see Godzilla Minus One. Please, please, please. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. A fucking 9 out of 10. I loved it. It's going to be in my top 10 of the year more than likely. And this year's getting better and better by the minute as far as movies go. I love your all's fucking faces. See you guys soon. Hope you guys have an amazing day.
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover. Dr. Challenge drunk again, sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you want to know about the darkness?
I said, God damn.
God damn you, faggot!
Halloween never ends, suck my fucking dick, and I don't really care what Blumhouse fucking says. Put him in a box, or suck a fucking cock. You can say he's dead, but we all know he's not, yeah. So let's go trick-or-treating, let's go fucking drinking, let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS.